everyone good to go? Yeah. All chilled? All happy? How does everyone feel about AI? Just as a warmer to get started, just shout out.
Right, love it.
Yeah? Love it? Yeah. So we've not got, we've not got any haters in the room though, right? So I'm not going to do anything convincing. Right, thank God for that. We're all shifting to it, right, though. We can see it in our businesses. We can see it from a consumer level, even down to the way that I personally use it to help me make choices. And so is everyone else. Everyone's shifting over to get that trust from an LLM, which is not real. So I'm going to jump onto the next slide. So everyone brace for Skynet, and I hope I'm not geeky enough making that joke, but you know, robots, job losses, Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger with shotguns, that's what we braced for when we were talking about AI. But what's arrived is actually a lot quieter, even though it's very, very destructive. And it's actually far more expensive. And AI is deciding which businesses your customers ever hear about. So it's going and trawling the internet. We'll talk a little bit more about this later on how you can kind of defeat AI and kind of hack the system, if you like. But unfortunately in this presentation, there's going to be no killer robots, just chatbots answering, what's the best, or which should I buy, or what are everyone else doing? Like, what's everyone else doing? Who's everyone else trusting? And it's terribly polite about it too. But if you're not appearing, then you are losing out. And we're going to go into some scary stats on the next slide. So, thank you. The dot-com boom, who was alive and existed for that? Yeah? Well, people are like, oh, I'm not going to actually show my age here. So the dot-com boom took around 6 years to come to full completion, and this took 3. So you can see, internet users after 6 years of dot-com boom, there were 70 million of them. Now at the rate that ChatGPT alone is at, it's at 1 billion users in just under 4 years. So you can see the speed and the growth of what is happening here. So just a few more facts about the dot-com boom. 70 million internet users after 6 years. It took a decade to fully shape commerce. It changed where people shop. We all started to invest in websites and things like that. And it gave businesses a new storefront. Websites. Who wanted it? That's a door and a half, that. No worries. So it gave your businesses a new storefront, which was your website. AI disruption, which happened in 2020s, was completely different. ChatGPT reached 1 billion users in just under 4 years. AI search volume is at 4.7 billion per day versus Google's 8.5 billion. So you can see how quick this is coming up and how fast we're all going to have to adapt. It's changing who people trust, and it tries to make decisions for them. So almost lending the AI a little bit of our brains. And the scary part is those fancy-dancy websites you might have invested a lot in are now trying to be removed actively so that it just gets an answer and gets someone to that answer a lot quicker. So it took Google around 2 decades, 20 years to go near monopoly, but I'd like to think that ChatGPT has done it in such a short time frame that we're actually going to be using the phrase, just ChatGPT it, more normally than we'll say, just Google it. Next slide, please, Will. So this isn't a trend. This isn't going away. This is a full-on migration. You've got ChatGPT at 900 million weekly users, up from 400 million, just a year ago. So it's more than doubled in a small space of time, 2.5 billion prompts a day. And because there's a proactivity in the LLMs, because we're going back and forth with it, I can only see that that's going to get more and more, especially now these LLMs are getting that clever, they're unlocking a memory so that it actually saves the conversations that you're talking about. Gemini, which is Google's version of AI, you'll see this as an overview now. If you go and Google things, they are trying to kind of become ChatGPT, if you like. And I've had many conversations with people about maybe the 20 years that it took Google to actually build an authoritative reputation is going to be in their favor because people are going to natively trust it more. But this is at 750 billion monthly. Its share of traffic has doubled in a year. So you can see it's on an upwards trend. But its own search fell from 87% to 79% in under 2 years. And this is a narrative that is quite daunting for people who have spent thousands on websites, on SEO packages, right? And AI is coming in and swooping that right underneath people's feet. So nearly 1 billion people now ask AI what they used to type into Google. Quietly, without fanfare, your customers are leaving. they're going somewhere else. So this is where this presentation kicks into place. So your customers or clients, or however you kind of label the people that buy your services, 50% use AI to shop. So I don't know, hands up in the air, who kind of goes to AI now for recommendations, or are we still, yeah? And we're expecting to see this massively in Black Friday this year. People are going to go, what's the best deal for X? What's the best deal for Y? We can see an entire shift of narrative. We come from an e-commerce background primarily, but we can see an entire shift to the way people are discussing things with these bots. 72%, this is the first stop. They're actively saying, this is where we're stopping, this is where we're going to have a conversation, before they've even jumped off and went into maybe another platform such as Google. Maybe they're going to do a little bit more research on you to get a little bit more trust. But as I say, the AI is coming more and more favourable in the fact that it can scrape these things thick and fast. 1 in 4 trust AI over Google. Don't know how many people in this room would kind of lean on that. I don't know who would actively prefer to do their own research. But I think we're all a little bit lazy sometimes and we just want to get to the decision quickly. So we're going to see more and more, and I expect that figure to grow. And nearly 80% of people let AI drive at least half of their decision making. We're busy, right? Like, we've got social media, we're always on. We're in the busiest time in humanity, so you can imagine that people just want to offload a little bit and allow someone else to do the decision making for them. So as you can see, quite scary figures if you're not adapting quickly and fast. And we had a bit of discussion before the talk began about jobs and things like that, which I'll go into a little bit later on. But it's a scary time if you're not prepared for the switch up. Next slide, please, Will. And even the #1 ranking doesn't save you now. You've got 68% zero-click searches. So 68% of Google searches end in 0 clicks. So if you're hoping your website's going to be doing the selling, you're already behind, because Google's already doing that selling for you. And it's pretty scary, which I'll show you later on, of where this information is happening. Up to 60% CTR drop. So when an AI overview shows, click-through rate drops drastically. So you can imagine this might not be maybe, buyer intent questions, for example. It might be, I don't know, let's pick some out there. When's the new Spider-Man film coming out, for example, So we can kind of fudge these numbers a little bit, but it's still scary, right? We're getting the information, we're trusting the information enough to just see what's on the screen first and then drop out. And every #1 position that's on Google right now, the CTR is down 58%. So the trophy's still there, but the visitors are less so. So traffic is leaving. And again, those websites are getting abandoned. So how do we convert people? How do we speak to people? It's an interesting spin. So name the enemy, the discovery gap. So when you search your own name, and you'll probably show up, site, socials, all there, it feels reassuring. I don't know if anyone's done this before, if they've jumped into ChatGPT and searched their own brand. It's kind of humbling at times, but sometimes you do show up and you can actually get in there, especially if you're specific, like local dog training business, for example. It can scrape bits and pieces. If you search the category, best dog training service in Preston, who should I use for dog training? Those queries bring new customers and you can vanish. And this is where it can get very, very convoluted, if you like. This is the spots that everyone's competing for. You're findable to people who already know you, invisible to everyone who doesn't, and that gap is a huge leak, especially for the small business owner. So who am I? I've just kind of stood here and kind of ranted at you for a bit. So I am Caitlin. I know that you probably haven't seen me around the building, even though I do work here. That's because I'm always in my little hovel doing coding, marketing, data reading, very geeky person. But I have got a master's in digital marketing, so I'd like to think I know what I'm talking about. We've been running our paid media agency for 5 years now, and we've been really digging into AEO and search over the past 6 months, or from an organic perspective. We spent 37 million in ads, so some impressive numbers here. We've worked with 160 brands, and we've got 100% client retention this year. So we'd like to think that we're not gurus, we're not thought leaders, we're just a bunch of women that get shit done. So that is basically who we are, and I've built my career off stopping the hemorrhaging of new customers going elsewhere and really fighting for that brand visibility. So where does AI even get the answer? And people have all their theories about this. And it's, those beautiful crafted websites where people would wish that they come from. They've spent hours building who they are, how to speak to their customer. They've got award-winning case studies. It's not there, unfortunately, just to ruin it in advance. AI doesn't Google you, it doesn't scrape all that information. It's running from a mental model built during training, and that model was fed by everyone except you. I'm going to break that down a little bit more. So what we need to start doing is think of it a little bit less like a search engine and more like a very, very confident friend that goes and spies on you and kind of reads what people are saying about you before it makes an informed decision. Next slide, please, Will. So, surprisingly, it's where real people talk. And I find that like somewhat ironic in a way that the bot is going where user-generated content is. But I like to believe it's a couple of reasons, but the main one is it's trying to sound more human. So it's trying to mimic the way that people speak on these platforms so it can become even more human and be almost like a super intelligent friend that gives you realistic answers. So Reddit is the single most cited source in AI answers. Does that shock anyone? Yeah? Yeah? Got a PR guy in the room here, it's a bit like...
Well, I mean, I do it, but Reddit to me is a very American platform, heavily used by Americans more so than the UK, so certainly maybe across Europe, maybe that's my own difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why. But Reddit was on a massive downward trend, and AI came along.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. We're talking about like Reddit all the time now, and yeah, it really is.
I think of Reddit and all I think of is those like, am I the asshole?
Yeah.
That's what I associate Reddit with. So the fact that ChatGPT is pulling information from that is like.
But Reddit seeding has been a thing for years. We call it Reddit seeding, right? Where you drip feed the answers that you want for that discoverability. It has been around for years. It's just AI has picked up on it a lot quicker. Then it's Wikipedia. I can imagine there's a few problems with that and the realism that comes with that. Then YouTube, surprisingly video, which we'll be seeing at Revolution. We have conversations about this all the time. If you've got keywords dripped through your video content, you are going to show on LLMs. And then finally, LinkedIn. So anyone in here knows me and got me on LinkedIn, you'll see how much I bash it. That is the reason that I do that. So these are the main engines where we can start to build. I'm going to speak specifically about small businesses later on, but this is like just 15 websites take up nearly 70% everything AI sites, which is scary, right? Because you need to get in there and you need to start making an impact. And AI trusts, stupid coffee machines just started kicking off. AI trusts what other people say about you far more than it does about yourself. So your beautiful website, unfortunately, and all that like time spent on brand guidelines and just moving that pixel to the left and right just to make it look almost perfect, it's getting ignored, unfortunately. And I can share, if anyone's interested, the citations from this presentation as well, so you can have a bit more of a deep dive and read too. So 4 shelves. AI builds its answers from 4 shelves, so really hoping that breaking this down will make it a lot easier for you guys to understand. And your website isn't the main one, and I'm going to keep drilling that into the back of your heads. So you're going to come, at least there'll be one thing that you will remember from this presentation today. UGC is the biggest. UGC is the biggest, so it's time to start investing your time into this. Reddit, YouTube, I'd like to think are easy, low-hanging fruit ones that everyone can start. LinkedIn, huge connected play. That's where real people are living. Even though I actually read a scary article that LinkedIn content, I think, is around 65% AI generated now. Scary stuff. So it's AI reading from AI. So we're losing our humanity the more that this circle goes round. Editorial, PR over here. Editorial, best of listicles and earned coverage, huge one. Getting into those places, working with a good PR agency is always a positive way to start tapping into different listicles and things like that. Reference, which is Wikipedia, is the huge authority layer here. Now, I know with small businesses, you might not be able to go and sell a Wikipedia about yourself, but actually Google Business, your Google Business profile does the same thing, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And corporate authority as well. Preston City Council was supposed to be in the room, but they're not today, but like think of your huge databases where you can find a lot of information. They get scanned as well. No, it's absolutely fine. Win the shells, win the answer. So 5 things quietly killing your score. So AI trusts everyone else more than you. So if you only talk about yourself on your own site, you'll get penalized. Now, this is a really interesting conversation and kind of giving you some insider goss. I was reading really heavily about this the other day, to the point where people have started to make their own listicles recommending their competitors over themselves, because it'll get them ranked in AI, and then ultimately the source will be you. So then it plays on your SEO as well. So there's just so much trickery happening right now, and we're actually, as an agency, we're going to produce something similar. We're going to go out there and recommend our competitors on our website, which is absolutely bananas, and we're going to try and do it in a way that's creative, but this is the stuff that's going to move the needle, that is going to get you ahead of the curve. You might not need to be a clear who, so fuzzy identity. We've just launched an agency called Generative. Can you imagine how confusing that is for AI to read? So we're now going through an absolute battle to try and get recognized as our own independent source on there. If it mixes you up, it'll skip you, basically. So there's going to be a lot of research that you're going to have to do with brands with similar names and making sure that you stand out against them. And we had a recent discoverability talk with a solicitor who has the same name as someone in America, and the AI kept getting confused and citing the American brand instead. So you can imagine, lost clients, lost opportunity to get in front of a new, fresh audience. Your words aren't your customer words. You might say bespoke consultancy, or other tech speak that people tend to use. Your customers are going, who can help me with this? Very simple, very black and white, which means that you're going to have to update your website to at least try and sound more human friendly, and in a way that is going to get people to, like we've started investing a lot of time into FAQs on our website. So if you want to check that out afterwards, everything is built as if an AI LLM is going to answer. One mention isn't enough. AI wants several independent sources agreeing. A single glowing write-up on your Trustpilot or whatever that looks like, it doesn't quite cut it. So making sure that you've got kind of like your efforts happening in different areas, it'll really, really help and support your overall growth. And your Google business profile does more than your website. I touched on this briefly before, but getting this set up, if you're a small local business, is so important, because most of the year is out of date. So when customers are asking for that information, it could just be the completely wrong thing. And I've seen this happening the other day with a restaurant that completely frustrated me, actually, because it said that the restaurant was open in the morning doing breakfast till the evening. Now ChatGPT did, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't. It opened at 12. So you're going to end up losing people who are physically on the ground ready to go into your restaurant and buy a meal. Next slide, please. So let's look in the mirror. Complete transparent. We like to say we're a no bullshit agency. And honestly, we're the perfect cautionary tale. We launched 6 days ago. Officially our website, our brand and our name. We've been doing this for a lot longer, but we decided to make it 2 separate entities. And we walked straight into a trap that I briefly mentioned before. We called ourselves Generative. And generative is the single most generic word in AI right now. Oops. Maybe we should have thought about that. So when AI went looking for us, it couldn't tell brand from buzzword, right? And what we then built is a layer of entity confusion into our brand. So, tremendous start. Oops-a-daisy, supposed to be the expert in this. But where that leaves us today is 9% visibility against our competitors. We rank 2nd out of 13, and we position 1.2. So we're quite high when we're mentioned, right? Which is not too bad at all. We're early, we're being honest with this, and we're climbing. And every week what I'm going to be doing is some sort of short or some sort of kind of snapshot on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on where we're at and how we're climbing, and being totally honest with the journey, because I think this is a black box that people just don't quite understand yet. So if you join me on LinkedIn from today, you'll start to see that we're going to be doing that and posting that quite regularly.
Can I just ask a quick question? How do you rank for that visibility? What do you use to test your 9%?
Yeah, so we use a visibility tool called peec.ai, and we build our funnel. Yeah, we build our funnel inside of peec.ai. You can give anyone a referral link to Peek if they're interested in that. But yeah,
that assesses your visibility on
ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Claude, yeah, different ones. We can kind of tailor it, and it also is on different prompts as well. So you can inflate the prompts, and this is across 150 prompts, just to be exact, especially around AEO service delivery. So when you've got a moment, at the end, I'm going to give you something interesting so that you can go and do this yourself. You can search your category, and then search what your customer actually types, and then you can brace yourself. Hopefully we're going to get a few, yeah! But we're going to give you some prompts that will really help you understand where you're currently at. And sometimes it's worse than being ignored. AI confidently will describe a completely different company as you. I actually had this with Falcon Promotions. They started to push a kind of merchandise, like build your own merchandise for your brand. Completely different. And I was like, interesting, because that's not what you guys do before. That's why I nailed you when you come in. I was like, what is it you actually do? So again, you can see that it's getting a little bit muddled, a little bit confused, and it'll present it as fact. And we had a discussion just before the talk started about, God forbid customers are getting more information, but is it correct information? Is it people are going to be walking in the room confidently, but it might not be the correct information that is getting served to them. So not a representation problem if you fix it with reviews. So Trustpilot is great, Google reviews, great, and I would strongly recommend the guy with the pin card, is it pin card that are in the, go and invest in one of them. Go invest in one of them and get every client, person you have a chat to start leaving you positive reviews. So what the gap actually costs, and it's not abstract. For you, it's not a lost sale, it's a lost client, a lost tender, a lost donation, a booking that went to someone else. And the brutal part is you never see it. No bounce, no lost pitch. We can't see things like, bounce rate on the websites. We can't actually find out what's turning customers off. Obviously we can, we've got that magic tool that tells us. But that's what's scary about it, where we used to own this data, now we've got to invest into finding out this information. And invisible losses, as we all know as business owners, are the most expensive kind. But good news, it's winnable, it is winnable. And none of this is fixed, it's earned, which means it's fast, winnable, exciting, and you can develop game plans for it. Because almost nobody in your category is doing it yet, I can guarantee it. No one's thinking about it. People are thinking about it being similar to SEO, building lovely websites, which hopefully by now you've all learned is not the answer forward here. So what we need to be doing is getting onto the shells that AI reads. Be in the conversation, not just your website. Get proactive, start creating that user-generated content. Be the leading voice in your category. And if you can make that no bullshit, you're going to have a much more fun time because you're going to stand out from the crowd. Answer the exact questions buyers ask. Read your social media comments, read the reviews that people are leaving. Just go and ask your clients, what are the questions that you have about my service? Reverse engineer it and build it onto your website. And if you do want to cheat, you can go and have a cheeky go on Claude and ChatGPT, but as we've mentioned before, this is probably going to end up AI talking to AI, and it's just going to end up a cycle of just user-generated content created by Claude, which is not the world that we want to live in. Fix your entity so that AI is certain on who you are, which is admittedly is more than most directories can manage. So make sure that your website's crystal clear, make sure you're getting the mentions, claim and feed your Google business profile. Out of interest, who's got one of those in the room? You actively use it and keep it updated? So important. And what we've noticed is actually those people, we have a client actually who've set it up the longest and kept it the most fulfilled are getting mentioned a lot easier because of that existing historical data. So please go and do that today. And build up third-party proof. Reviews, mentions, roundups, PR agencies that can help you with that stuff. This is a digital equivalent of a good word from someone who isn't you. So you can't fix what you can't measure. So until recently, you couldn't measure this at all, which is reassuring in a way, right? Ignorance is bliss. We can just all pretend we don't know what's going on, but less reassuring if you're trying to build a business, especially in this economy. So you want to be measuring. So I've just mentioned tools that you could use for that. You want to be mapping how to use those tools, and you want to be moving, and you want to be doing this at lightning speed as well. Start here. Hopefully this slide is going to be very, very useful to everyone in this room today. Google Analytics 4. Anyone use this? Cool. Go to acquisition, traffic sources, and watch for a direct rise in direct traffic. That's often people hearing your name from AI mentioning you. So I think as time goes on, they're going to be able to break down, the platforms, maybe a little bit more detail. I think ChatGPT might be on there now. So you're going to see that those traffic sources are going to get more comfortable and baked into the overall interface. Google Search Console, really, really underrated tool. Check your branded query impressions. If branded clicks are rising, but organic is flat, AI is driving awareness. And you'll see that quite clearly on these dashboards. So it's driving awareness, but not clicks. That is hugely important because what AI is doing is trying to keep it in the platform so it can use more of its tokens. So it's trying to give more information to engage someone in a conversation specifically about your brand. ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Claude, pick your favorite, Grok, not so much people's favorites for some obvious reasons, but ask what is the best service in your city and industry. Be an interesting one for you, Carolina, with the dog training. It's very, very specific. Do this monthly, screenshot it, track it wherever you appear. This is if you don't want to be investing a lot of money in a lot of powerful tools. Embrace yourself the first time. As I say, I hope that a lot of you are going to be, yes, but it can be a little bit more complex than that. Google yourself as an entity, not just your business name, but search business name plus Reddit, Trustpilot, G2.com, and count the results. If there's nothing, AI has nothing to pull from. So ultimately, you can start to build your roadmap on what to build and how to get yourself discovered. Your Google business profile, check your last 5 reviews. Are they recent? That's a huge one because AI's got really bad recency bias. It'll just go, what's happening now with this brand? Are they detailed? AI uses recency and specificity, that is too long of a word for this time of the day, as trust signals. Old or thin reviews, they've got low weight. So it could be that someone that has 5 really good reviews is beating your hundreds. Scary times, right? Your chosen AEO platform, so I mentioned Peek before, but there's loads out there. I think a lot of the traditional ones around SEO are trying to build an element of this into it as well. It automates all of the above into one AI health score, tracks your visibility across ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini weekly, so you don't have to do it manually, which, let's be honest, you're probably not going to do it. It's one of those tasks that just end up at the bottom of the to-do list. So this is why these tools can be super, super helpful. And of course, we are an agency that provides this as a service as well. We're not here to hard sell you. But obviously, we build these blueprints customizable to every single business so that you can go and start growing on your platform. Before you leave, and we're going to take questions because we're going to have time for it, but before you leave, 2 things, both free, both useful today. No catch, no upsell, no countdown timer. We've got an AI prompt guide for lead generation. I'm going to put the QR code on in a minute. This is a library of prompts that you can use this afternoon to pull leads out of AI, scan, and it's yours. And an AI health score as well. This is the same audit I actually ran on this room today, where you stand, who AI names instead of you, and it's probably fine. You're probably going to be fine. Please don't cry when you read it. But yeah, we've got these 2 free things for you to grab. Next slide, please, Will. And here's the QR codes where you can grab these things. Really recommend the prompt library and the AI health score. If you like to hear me jabber on today, you can follow me on LinkedIn as well for the rest of my journey with battling the bots. Is there any questions? It's getting captured. This is one of the scary things though, right? Because what are these platforms built by? White. Like, what is it? What is it they say? Pale, male, and stale. Sorry for people in the room that identify as that. But there's a lot of people who are being underrepresented on these platforms. It's totally right. This is why we need to kind of get up as a collective and not stop our creativity when it comes to UGC. I'll be the first to admit, when I can't bother to write a LinkedIn post, I'm running it through Claude and giving it the prompt that will get me to what it needs to be. But it's about turning up with your humanity. And I was actually watching a prediction about the people in the next 2-3 years who are going to be the most prominent, like, scraped people, are going to be the people who turn up on YouTube consistently, not perfectly, who speak like a human being. Thank God, because I'm not polished at all, not been media trained at all. And who AI finds it trouble actually replicating as a voice. And the reason for that is because it's trying to sound human. So it's going to try and go after people like your average Joe, like me, bit of a Manc accent, probably going to sound like Liam Gallagher responding at some point. But that's where the AI is going to go. And this is a prediction that me and other AI obsessed nuts are kind of leaning towards, that it's going to keep kind of building from those voices. But to bring the conversation over to creative, we've had conversations about creative all the time and where that's going and how that's developing. I think that's an interesting part as well. Like, how do we bring the creative angles and not stop the humanity of what's happening as well? And we speak all the time, just because you use AI as a tool to publish or create things Doesn't mean that your creativity has stopped. You've built some beautiful adverts from your creative angles. What the bit in the middle that's disappearing is the uniqueness, and we're all starting to sound the same. And that's the worry, right? Like, as business owners, you don't want to be just molding in with your competitors. And this is why the no bullshit approach that we are taking, it's going to be refreshing in the industry. We tell you the price on the website so that AI can, go and find our customers and tell you exactly who we are. It gives a no bullshit response. We've built our tool to help small businesses. Hopefully what that'll do is start to build trust and humanity back into the process. So your pale, stale males are not the ones dominating, and people are going to be able to break through from just like normal backgrounds. That's kind of like my 2 cents. I'm not very long-winded. I hope I answered your question then. Yeah.
However you feel.
So are you talking specifically about what we look at to do a diagnosis?
Yeah.
We look at the prompts that are being fed into it. So, for example, specifically, I'm going to use skincare as an opportunity. We actually run something similar right now.
Yeah.
Is alcohol actually easier to talk about? I don't know. But basically, the prompts that are going into things, we reverse engineer and see what people are appearing for and why they're appearing for it. Our tool gives us visibility of that at different stages of the funnel. So you can imagine someone asking at the top of the funnel, what's the best skincare routine for me? Very broad question, right? What ChatGPT is trying to push them down a funnel of deciding like the next round of questions. So we try and build the prompt engineering from the top right through to the bottom to see how people are getting mentioned, and even if you're appearing at all. And then we build around that to start develop more and more conversations to go back up again. And skincare gets scraped from good old TikTok. So, it's a hard one to, kind of regulate in a way. So then what we would do is recommend, okay, maybe Reddit's not the place for you to be going to build a full-blown strategy. Go down TikTok's route and start to build content around that. And again, it starts to rebuild the funnel. So this is where the game plan can be completely bespoke for the businesses. We give you very generic advice today that every brand could do and go and start to, really build their portfolio on AI. But every single brand in here will have a completely different path to AI discoverability, which is why it's going to be such a nightmare for people to navigate. But then, at any given moment, because it's such a fast-paced LLM, something could have activated overnight that you're not even aware of, or what I'm not even aware of, and you could start getting recommended again. This is why it's always important to be really developing your narrative very early on. And those businesses that are getting built now with AEO in mind are probably going to start beating businesses that have existed for 20, 30 years because they're not going to adapt quick enough. P. Louise was interesting. P. Louise is a TikTok brand, a skincare brand, huge, biggest brand on TikTok when it comes to TikTok lives and generating cash. Absolutely invisible on AI because she's built one platform with a really, really intense audience. Now, if we're going into a no-click environment, how's that going to look for her? If TikTok changes her views dip and her lives, or God forbid, she's caught up in some sort of controversy scandal, which her whole business leans on just her and her brand and identity, you're talking income disappearing overnight. So making sure that you have more than like one basket full of eggs and spreading yourself out is the winner here. Quality over quantity. Interesting question. I've actually not broke that down in terms of the software that we use, but that is something I'm definitely going to take back to them and start to ask. Because Fable, for example, it's more deep research, it's more Fables on Claude. So the different models is the way that we kind of tell AI to act in terms of intensity. So if you've got like a low value model, it might be that it just scrapes a few bits and pieces. That might be a black box that's still on your head to cover. Oh yeah, that we definitely do that. So so we break down the specific platforms where the low-hanging fruit is and start to really develop and push those ones up, or identify where there's a huge gap in the market. So it might be Google AI, for example. We can break down if you're ranking well on ChatGPT and it might be a little bit worse on Google AI. We'll be able to give you a bespoke, customized plan on what to do on that specific platform and what that's scraping to then raise you on that platform. And this is where it becomes really, really complex, right? Because we're talking prompts inside each and every different, I think there's 19 different engines we can track right now. So for your average Joe, just activating Peek, it can be very, very overwhelming because you're putting in prompts. Yeah. Whereas we can read that data because we come from a background of digital marketing. We can make life easier for people, basically. The cynic in me says that this is a very early adopter approach when it comes to AEO. And what we're going to see next, because ChatGPT has already done it, ads. And we're going to get ads. And it's going to be ad space. You're going to buy into that space. You had a conversation with Google rep, and they're already unleashing specific campaign types so that you can appear in that AI overview. So this...
And it's the only way that you can appear in the AI overview.
Yeah.
Through AI maps.
Yeah, so then you're spending money to appear, right? So eventually, is this going to become pay to play? Maybe. Is this going to be a limited window? Possibly. But is it going to affect you overall? Probably not, because as people get more switched on to AI and being able to read the data efficiently and start to understand how these work, are people going to look at the sources that are providing them their information? Is it going to become more regulated so only specific places get, scraped for the content that's found on these LLMs? And this is why a good AEO agency will keep, far ahead on that to help support with that journey. So yeah, it's very early doors, isn't it? It's a scary time. Yeah. And the way that we're going to be structuring our content, and you won't be surprised to see it. And the flip that we're going to be doing is every single piece of our content is going to be answering a question. Like it used to be that we would post just kind of like updates in a way, but we're trying to dominate based on how people are going to be actively searching, and use and kind of mirror the language back to them so that we can become a lot more aggressive in that market as well. It's telling you where to market and how to market and what your customers are looking for, and it's begging you to educate them, whilst also educating these models, which is why it's so important when using AI to market your brand now, that you're using it in a way where you're still downloading your brain, even if it's like I use it for grammar because I'm awful. But like what's going to be happening is you're training something to basically be a part of you. So we're really going to be like looking at, face camera videos, talking about things, and a lot of our content is going to have key sentences or structures or paragraphs to ensure that we can be discovered a lot easier. So we're almost going to be talking we're almost going to be talking like robots in a way to try and be understood by the robots. Doing that organically is going to be super difficult, but it's the way things are going to adapt, which is really, really interesting. Love it. Yeah, definitely get stuck in. I mean, it's different for every single brand, as I say. When you do like a big report and like what we're paid to do for our clients, it gives you like directly what to be working on and where to focus. But ultimately, those are still getting cited, especially YouTube.
Is it like a lot of videos that are really good? Like
Yeah, shorts, longs, like long form. Sorry, it's a wide variety, which makes it all the more interesting and all the more challenging. We actually have seen the rapid growth of our competitors on YouTube Shorts because they're breaking things down and answering simplistic questions in just 2 to 3 sentences that then lend to the AI to go and scrape, and then that's been used as gospel on these LLMs, which it could be opinion. Like that's the scary thing. Like a lot of this could be opinion, and it's been used to educate people on the other side who's going to take that as gospel and go and run with it. Scary times, but ultimately this is where regulation comes into things, and a whole bigger conversation about what should we be allowing these LLMs to use to educate people, and getting ahead of the market, and definitely thinking about customer psychology, and answering questions is a huge one. So I've got 2 different answers for this question, because this is the beauty of what we've done. We've been in the digital space for so long that I can give you 2 different dynamic answers. Have your core pillar of prompt engineering, your question answering, the same, right? But then really look at what the different platforms you've got are trying to achieve. Again, totally open book. Our platforms are going to be completely different. On Instagram, what gets us the furthest reach and the most attention? Meme content. So I have to go and act like an idiot to get my own brand out there, right? Every now and again, we filter in that question answering content, but we have to remember what the platform's there for to begin with, which is entertainment. So meme content on there. On LinkedIn, you'll see it's a lot more regimented around education, answering questions, engaging with my community. We don't have TikTok. I mean, we do have TikTok, but we just repurpose. But YouTube is something that we're going to be unlocking in the next month. and I'm going to be focusing on long form videos, answering the questions that people are asking about my competitors, about me, to answer those questions in a long-winded way. So my advice there is, every AEO person would just be like, go in, answering questions, just go, go, go. I'm telling you, remember, bear in mind what that specific platform was built for, because you don't want your engagements dropped for whatever reason, if that's where you find customers or clients. But make sure you have your main pillars of content planned out, and the prompt library will really help you plan that content, because it will give you an insight into, like genuine questions that customers will ask. I would say that it's a similar answer to this one. Your blog post, you want to still be having that human element. Sorry, my ears just popped. You want to be still having that element of the question and answer style, but what you'll see is, again, we should try and make it as human as possible, because the AI wants to sound more human. So I can guarantee in elements of your blogs, you're going to have that humanity that is going to be able to get you ranked well. You guys are doing quite well on AEO, actually. Ranked well for a number of different reasons. But make sure when you maybe tailor in your blog post content now, it's got those filtered questions throughout. You don't need to type out the question, but you're answering the key questions that you're trying to get discovered on, if that makes sense. Yeah. I don't think it's dead. I think it's changing. I think it's completely changing. And I think, elements of this, you'll know, you've had years in the industry where it's leaning in one bit and the other. Do I think it's going to be dead in the next 2 years? Potentially. The way I've seen Google moving quickly to get into like the chatbot style, is that what we're after as a consumer? I think it is, because we want to get to the answer and we want to make it feel like a friend's almost borrowed us that answer, right? I actually did a good LinkedIn post about that yesterday, so I'll link you to that. So check it, get me added. But yeah, I don't think it's dead. I think it's rapidly changing, but I think only time will tell with that specific. This is where I think things get scary, right? Because you're talking about reputable news sources there, or people might have opinions on that, but like the BBC, for example, try to remain biased, not biased as much as they can. Slip of the tongue there. But you've got websites like the Daily Mail, for example, who might be very fantastic.
Well, it's independent of what
and it wouldn't surprise me if they start to like compete against each other. I think the Guardian have as well, haven't they? Yeah. So I think what we're going to be seeing is, you've got these LLMs that are built by your rich white men, that have the data being sourced specifically from PR that is written by rich white, produced to the public for rich white men.
I might be white, but I'm not rich.
And this is all getting pushed through with biases, and we've seen this happening with AI, right? There's some scary stories that I don't even want to really talk about, with the way that it represents people and things like that. Just a simple one, for example, if you tell AI to generate a photo of a CEO, usually be a rich white man, right? So those biases are already built into the model. So you imagine your Daily Mails, which publicize these really extreme reviews, and if this is getting scraped, you've got like so much different stuff that's been added. And I've just told you guys that the top pull is UGC. So those like right-wing populist, really, really heavy, extremely right-wing views can come into play very, very easily, with extreme bias built in as well. And I think that's where I'd like to think AI are trying to control the narrative a little bit more through the UGC content, so that those big publications are not just dominate the story of the facts building and stuff like that, that people, it could be opinion and people are taking as fact. But this is where it goes down a really scary rabbit hole, right?
It was interesting in my research of which media providers involved with their websites. Quite only a few in the UK, Europe, America,
Free for all.
NBC, Fox News, ABC, CNBC.
And look at the leaders in those countries, and look at the leaders in the countries and where they're at. It's so interesting, really, really interesting. Obviously, we're talking from a revenue perspective, but this is where I'm this space is wide open right now. And I'll give you a very specific example. What we're doing as a business is we're actually targeting alcohol businesses, because for the first time ever, they're going to have a digital presence that they've never had before. They're heavily regulated on organic. They're heavily organic social. They're heavily regulated on paid advertisements. They're just heavily regulated. This isn't regulated. If someone types in, what's the best gift for my dad who loves bourbon, for example, you're going to get a list of recommendations. We also talked about sex toys as well, because they're not regulated, but they're very heavily regulated on social media platforms, right? So there's a whole pool of people here who've never, ever, ever had an audience that they could potentially start to communicate with. And people are searching. We're seeing that on average, when we run a 7-day audit, over 50 prompts, there's over 1,500 searches. That's on average. So you can imagine if we started to push more prompts through to get more discoverability and more answers to our questions, even thousands for your average Joe brand, which I'd love to do a piece of work around specific local businesses, because I think it's really, really important to not forget about the small businesses that are trying to make an impact too. So what we do is we do a 90-day blueprint to begin with, every single brand that comes on with us. A lot of AEO agencies will want to jump in the deep end straight away and just start charging off the bat. This is the blogs to do. This is the Reddit post to do. This is a TikTok to jump on, without actually understanding the data. So what we do for the first month is we take what you've currently got and run it for 30 days and see where everything's at and get a lay of the land in the field. Then we start gathering data. The second month, we start building your website schema. So basically your crawlability, so that these AI bots can actively start to read what you've got on your website a lot more cleaner and a lot more better through like a specific FAQ system. By the 90 days being complete, because we will have a month of data then of making our little nerdy, techie, tweaky changes, by the end of the 90 days, what we'll have is a full-on roadmap. Then we'll talk to you about, like, this is the next steps, this is the things to do. Some of it might be in-house work that we can, work on and deliver together. Some of it might be simply we're deploying people to go and work on your Reddit for you. And we're going to just have, typing responses and really promoting and shouting about your brand. It honestly depends per brand. We've seen like some wild takes. Some is we work with actively PR agencies to try and boost the PR and editorial side of things, because that works. So everything kind of, we basically hold up the mirror and say, this is what's happening and this is how we work and this is how we get seen and mentioned.
Are you just consumer focused?
Lead gen focus as well. We've just started from an e-commerce background. There are people, we can speak to them quite easily, but everything that we're applying is just a funnel, it's a marketing funnel that we're well versed in, because we market lead generation ourselves. This is why we're very, very skeptical until we see a shift. And one of the things that we notice specifically for our D2C clients is the huge shift in AI search and what it's making and where new customers are coming from. And we were like, the ship is changing. This is going to be a rise in ad costs, CPMs. So that's basically what we do.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.